Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is being presented by the Mahwah Regional Chamber of Commerce, and this is a benefit available to all members. If you have any interest in presenting a webinar in the future, please call the Chamber office and get full details. Today's topic is sponsored by RD Legal Bookkeeping, and additional sponsorships are available for members. With great pleasure that I'd like to introduce Al Teresi. Al is from Teresi & Associates, and he's going to be talking to us for the next 25 minutes or so about networking the networks. We're going to be having his presentation followed by a question and answer session. If you'd like, you can type in your questions on your screen, and Al will get to them at the end, or you can email them over to the Chamber office. Good morning, Al.
Good morning. I'm Al Teresi of Teresi & Associates and founder of the Sales Experts Academy. As Dave said, we're going to be together for about 20 minutes, and there's an awful lot of material to cover, and there's no way that we can cover everything today within 20 minutes on networking networks. So, in about 18 days or so, I'm going to have available for you a complimentary 7-course program on how to network the networks. Now, because of the amount of time that we have, I'm going to be moving around to a couple of different slides out of order and commenting on them. So we're ready. Here we go. We're going to go to slide number 4. And I've been attending networking meetings for a number of years, doing a lot of research, and it's interesting. I see people falling into a number of different categories, and I call them kind of like horror stories, and I'm only going to touch on a couple because I really want to get to the substance of it. I had gone to a meeting that was sponsored by a very influential firm. I was part of a group of 10 people, and when I arrived at the meeting, 5 of the people in our group were sitting together having coffee in the midst of 100 potential prospects. And to me, that was horrible that they spent the time to go there to talk with each other when they could have done that at another time. Another experience that I had that really threw me off was when I introduced myself to an individual, had a conversation with them, and wanted to make an appointment with them. They didn't have their calendar or business cards with them. And to me, I mean, why would someone take the time to go to an event, not have a business card on them, and not have a calendar with them to book an appointment? So enough of the horror stories. We're going to go back to slide 2. Let's see. Just bear with me for a moment. Is networking your best business development strategy? And from my standpoint, it absolutely is. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion based on my own experiences and the experiences of others. Mail campaigns have a certain value in terms of making people aware of your brand, but if you have a small budget and you can't afford to go through the printing of really expensive postcards, it's a very expensive way to get in front of people, and the downside is you don't know if they read them. I know when I go to the post office and I pull all the mail out of my P.O. box, most of the time the postcards wind up in the garbage. Cold calling, as far as I'm concerned, is a technique of the past, and it's dead. I went to work for a company. They had a salesperson working for them. In the first 3 months, that salesperson had made over 2,000 cold calls, wound up with 2 appointments, closed 1 piece of business, and brought in $1,500, which didn't even justify his existence at the desk, let alone what his base pay was. Walk-ins today with security, it's virtually impossible to get to the decision maker. If you're lucky to get past the security guard, past the sign-in desk, and get to the receptionist, at best, you're going to be asked to leave a brochure. And if that's what your strategy is, you might as well just mail it, because that's a waste of time also. Websites are a very good way of branding yourself, making people aware of you. But again, if you don't do the things necessary, websites can be a good strategy or a bad strategy. It's not a question of just putting it up there and leaving there. You have to have a lot of content. It's got to be good content. It has to be valuable, and it has to be constantly added to. Blogging, I do blogging. I've built a lot of relationships with blogging. I have a lot of people coming to my websites, and I've actually gotten business. Now, networking, from my standpoint, is really a very, very good way to grow business, especially if you know how to go about doing it. And based on my experience, not a lot of people know how to use networks properly. Now, bear with me for a moment. Now, your sales pipeline is really the lifeblood of your organization, and you show me someone that isn't making any money, and I'm going to show you someone that doesn't have many prospects in their pipeline and are probably using a lot of strategies that are outdated. This individual that made the 2,000 phone calls over a 3-month period and made one sale implemented my strategy and consistently was making appointments at every networking event he made, and his sales began to grow. Now, let's talk about some of the mistakes that salespeople make at networking meetings. They leave a group for the wrong reason, and the thing that I keep hearing is, I didn't get anything out of it. The truth of the matter is, it's not that they didn't get anything out of it. They really didn't put anything into it rather. And to put something into it, you have to have a process, a very defined, objective, measurable networking process. And for me, I do a lot of preparation prior to the event. I have an idea of the title of the event, what the event is about. And oddly enough, I do not go to the events that I'm interested in personally. I go to the events that my prospects are interested in. So prior research and taking a look at the venue and who's going to be there is extremely important in choosing the event. During the event, I have a very specific 8-step strategy, which I'm going to be outlining in the program that's going to be available to you that I mentioned as complimentary. And during the event, I do the exact same thing, and using the event strategy that I've developed, I guarantee that going to an event, you will leave with 3 solid appointments every single time if you do what you're supposed to do. Again, a lot of people after the event go home, go to business, and they forget about the event. It's so critically important to have a after-event strategy. And an after-event strategy could be putting people into your LinkedIn database, putting them into your constant contact database, and keeping in touch with these people on a regular and consistent basis, and offering value to them, which really brings up an important point. Too many people go to networking events. In fact, I've often commented that if you go to a networking event, you have a lot of sellers and no buyers. And the purpose of the networking event is to identify people that you can begin to develop relationships with that you can help and can help you. Now, to that point, if you're going to an event, I see a lot of people that don't have a goal. I make up my mind, and this is part of my strategy, and it's part of the strategy that I teach. When I go to a networking event, I get there a half hour to 45 minutes early. I want to meet the people that are putting the event together. I want to see if there's something that I can do to help them be successful. I want to become part of their team. It also builds a certain comfort zone because, in a sense, you've structured yourself as being a unappointed host, and you can begin to greet people coming in. The other thing is I see that people don't leave enough time for the event. They book their calendars so tight that after the event, they're off to the next whatever it is that they have to do. I allow at least 45 minutes to an hour after the event to be hanging around, because I would have listened to people, spoken with people, and have identified certain people that I want to meet with later on. So I allow myself enough time to speak with these people after the event rather than just running out. Now, let's talk about a little bit of the mistakes that salespeople make. Most times they do not have a model of what their ideal prospect opportunity. I've heard the expression, everybody's a prospect. Well, that's not true. I just got out of the hospital and I had some major surgery done as a result of an accident, and I was not a prospect for the surgeon that performed the surgery until an unfortunate event took place when I got into an accident. So for him to walk into a room and say that everyone is a prospect is incorrect. They are suspects. They have the potential to become prospects, but they may not be. So to be really successful, you really have to have a very clear description of what your ideal prospect opportunity is, so that when you ask questions of an individual, you can determine whether they are a prospect or whether they are a strategic partner or a referral source. And again, in this program that you're going to be getting complimentary, that's going to be outlined in a little bit more detail. Okay? Now, I mentioned referral partners and strategic relationships. Most people don't know how to identify them. I was talking with an individual that went to an event, and he said there were 75 people there and there were no prospects. Well, to think it through, after he described the people that were there, it was very clear to me that there were potential strategic partners there. There were people there that were selling to the same type of prospects that he was selling to, and if a relationship was developed and cultivated, he had the potential of being introduced to this particular salesperson's clients. But he was looking at this particular salesperson as a prospect and missed the opportunity. Strategic relationships, these are people, and again, I'll go into more detail on this in complimentary program. Strategic relationships are people that don't necessarily need what you have. They may not be able to refer you to people that need what you have, but because of the nature of their role, they can introduce you to people that they know that can get you to who you want to know. Next mistake, spending too much time with the wrong people. People don't know how to exit a conversation when they are at a networking group. As an observer, I've observed conversations going on between people where the conversation was stalled, it was stale, both parties were trying to get away from each other, but they just didn't know how to disengage. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little strategy. When I've spoken with someone at a networking event, and I've determined whether they're a strategic partner, a referral source, or a prospect, and I've booked an appointment with them, I'll ask them if there's anyone in the room that they'd like to meet. Just pick them out. And being the outgoing person that I am, I will take the person that I was talking with and bring them up to someone that I don't even know and introduce the two of them, then go through my process of identifying whether they're a partner or a prospect or whatever, and then being able to leave the two of them together to move on. And this is a very unique strategy because it helps you build the number of people that you're going to be able to have conversations with at a networking event and be able to disengage and move on. Okay, a lot of salespeople, business developers, don't know how to set up appointments with the right people. I had a conversation with a gentleman, and I said, I'd like to learn more about what you do. When the opportunity arises, I may be able to introduce you to some people that can help you. His response was, send me an email and give me some dates and times that you're available. Well, I didn't feel very comfortable about that because I'm not going to tie up my calendars on maybes and then making phone calls back and forth trying to put this thing together. So I said, well, why don't you get out your smartphone or your appointment book and let's book it right now. And he said, well, I really don't have it with me. So, here's the key. If you're going to go to a networking event, you want to dress appropriately for the event. You want to have the right tools with you. You want to know what openings you have in your calendar. And you want to be able to approach this as a business with very specific objectives in mind. Now, let's talk about networking strategies of top sales performers. Yeah. There are so many events that you can participate in that are advertised on the internet that you could spend a lifetime going to them. But what you need to do is to begin to take a look at what your prospect would be going to. And then based on determining what your prospects go to, those are the venues that you join in terms of membership. You have to know why they are there. Now, why they're there, it could be to build relationships, it could be educational, it could be for any number of reasons. Top performers have a clearly defined, repeatable, objective process, and I touched on this earlier, where my process has 3 steps in it: the preparation step, the activity step, which is at the event, and the post-activity strategies. And the post-activity strategies are long-term. The pre-event is just doing the research, and again, you'll learn about how to do the research in more detail. In terms of being respectful, I sat at a table of 8 people. Each person had 2 minutes to talk about what they did, and a timer would go off at the end of your 2 minutes, and the gentleman sitting to my left continued to talk after the 2-minute bell went off. And he clearly demonstrated that it was really about him and not about the other people that were there. So you really want to understand how to be respectful of people, of their time, have a better understanding of why they're there, what they're looking for, and become a resource for them rather than looking to just sell. Now, in terms of level of involvement, whenever I join an organization, I try to get on committees. I want to be able to move with the movers and the shaker in the organization. I want to be able to make a contribution to the organization, and that's just my mindset. The old adage of ask and you shall receive, I think, is dead. It's more about give and you shall receive. And the more we give of ourselves, the more we bring value to other people, the more respect we're going to have, the more our reputation is going to grow, and the more people are going to want to help us. So don't go to sell. Go to these events with the idea of building relationships at various levels. And again, this will be covered in that 7-week course that I'm going to be making available to you. It's because through relationships, you're going to grow your business. If you go back to the early days of our culture, people went out west. There were little towns that were developed, and the town had a butcher, it had a blacksmith, it had a sheriff, it had a bar, it had a hotel, it had a number of different industries, and those little businesses were the people that grew the town. They had close relationships with each other, and they did business with each other out of the relationships and out of the recognition that the people that they had the relationships were going to bring value. Now, as these little towns grew into villages, more and more people moved into the towns, and there's now a duplication of industries. Typically, the industries that still continued to do the business were the participants within the industries that built relationships. And the people that came into the town duplicating the industries there were not as successful because they didn't cultivate the relationship. So that's the key. And relationship isn't I know who you are and I know what you do. it goes at a much, much deeper level. I had a conversation with an individual, and I can't go into a lot of detail now, but within 15 minutes, I learned about his life history, and he learned about me. This gentleman has been a client and a friend for the past 20 years, and it's built on a relationship. He doesn't question my fees. He doesn't shop me. He knows that I'm there for him at any time of the day, and our relationship is what keeps us together. Plus, I bring value to him. Now, why should a process be repeatable? If you go to an event and you shoot from the hip and you do something different every time, it's very, very difficult to determine what works and what doesn't work. When you put a process together and you follow the process and you repeat the process over and over again, you get to see what works and what doesn't work. And by tracking the results of each of the steps, you're able to make some evaluations and critique what you're doing, what you need to improve, and what you need to change. Now, we're just about out of time, so if there's any questions that anybody has, I'd be very happy to address them.
Al, we got a couple questions came in by email. I'm just going to hand them to you, and you can read them. And
okay.
Let them go.
Okay. I met some very pushy people at networking events, and I'm afraid I'll sound like them. How do I avoid coming across as being pushy? Well, the first way to avoid being pushy is by not being pushy. So, what does that mean? Going to an event requires us having a goal, as I mentioned. And my goal is to learn about people, not for them to learn about me. Now, the key is you want to be interested and not interesting. And if you have a model of what your ideal prospect opportunity is or what your ideal referral source is, and you go to the event with the intention of asking questions and learning about people, they're going to be more interested in being with you because you're interested in them. I went to an event, and this guy was trying to sell me a battery charger for my phone that I could charge at home by plugging it in and pick up an extra 2-3 hours. And the guy just wouldn't leave me alone. And I wouldn't even do business with him. I wouldn't even want to participate with him. I wouldn't even want to have coffee with him because it was always about him. He had little or no interest in me, and that's okay. But I believe that to really be successful, we have to care more about other people than we care about ourselves. We have to have a genuine interest in other people and learning about them, learning about the issues that they have, and then connecting them with people that can help them or helping them yourselves. And when you do that, you're going to develop a reputation of trust and honesty and respect. And that's how you're going to grow your business. The next question is, how do you meet people? I feel awkward walking up to a stranger and starting a conversation. I don't know what to say. This is very, very common, and this is why people wind up into the groupies. In my session that I'm going to be giving you free, I'm going to expand on that. But basically what I do is go up to someone and say, hi, my name is Al Teresi. I'm the president of Teresi & Associates and the founder of the Sales Experts Academy. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And they may talk about the personal side, they may talk about the business side, and I just keep listening with the intention of genuinely wanting to learn about them. And in that genuine learning about them, the relationship begins to develop. So it's not so much what you have to say about you, it's more important about what you ask about them. And in that, you're also not going to look pushy. So it's more of a context issue. You don't want to go to these business meetings because you need the business. You may want it, but that's secondary. You really want to learn about other people. And the more you learn about other people, the more interested you are in them, the more closely they're going to feel towards you, the more they're going to embrace you. And as you get to know each other better, your relationship will get stronger and you'll do business. So going back, I ask, tell me about you, and then if I see some synergy, whether they be a referral partner, I book an appointment with them right then and there, and then move on to the next person. But I always introduce them to somebody else first. We have another question. Any rules about eating and drinking at networking events? Well, in terms of liquor, I do not drink when I go to any type of an event, if there's liquor. In terms of eating, I may have an appetizer, but the thing is, it's not really to eat. I was at an event where I spoke. There were 38 people there. The event was 2 hours long, and I spoke the last half hour. And I said to the group, by a show of hands, how many people came here to eat? And about 3 or 4 hands went up. I said, okay, how many people came here to socialize? Another 7 or 8 hands came up. Then I said, how many people came here to meet someone to help them grow their business? And everyone's hands went up. Then here came the killer question. I said, how many people have met someone and booked an appointment in their calendar? 3 people out of 30 some odd people had booked appointments. So the rule about eating, forget about it. The rule about drinking, don't bother with it. Your purpose is to meet people, learn about them, cultivate relationships. It's not about eating or drinking. That shouldn't even enter the equation. Any other questions? Okay, we've got one more. Any tips on approaching a group of people who are socializing when one of them is a good prospect, but they are hanging out with their friends? Well, the first question is, how do you know they're a good prospect? If they, in my world, if they're a prospect, I would have had to have met with them before. I would have had to have some kind of a conversation with them before to determine whether they're a prospect. Now, within this group, I've gone up to groups of 3 or 4 people. I've walked right up to them and say, hi, my name is Al. Do you mind if I join you? And then I just stand there and I listen to the conversations that are going back and forth. And then I also evaluate each of the speakers and what they have to say against my model. So again, it's being polite, it's being respectful, and asking them if you could join them. Think of it in terms of, if you went to a stranger's house and you knocked on the door and just walked in, what kind of a reaction would you get? If you went into a group of people talking and you interrupted and started telling them about what you do, you wouldn't be embraced. So you want to be invited in rather than charge in. Okay, I guess that's it for our questions. We're competing with a lawnmower outside. I hope it hasn't competed too much. Again, in about 18 days or so, you're going to be receiving some information from me on this complimentary program, and I'll stay in touch with you between now and then. And if you have any questions, my telephone number is 908-472-3848. You can visit my website. It's a new website that's being developed, so there's not a lot on there, but you can certainly learn about me and get a better sense of who I am, because there's a little button that you push on the home page, and I just go into a dissertation about my life experience in business. Take care, make it a great day, and keep this in mind. Today is a very special day, because today is only going to happen once. So you want to make the most of today, because when today is gone, it is not coming back. God bless you, and make it a great day.